So Tony Soprano is no longer with us. But people are still getting whacked. Illnesses, injuries, financial issues. For a reminder of this, we need look no further than the holiday that's coming next week, Tisha B'Av, a day on which we fast and weep and lament all of the terrible slings and arrows that have been hurled at the Jewish people during our painful past. Now, of course, when bad things happen to us collectively or individually, we don't know whether God is punishing or whether he's testing our faith. Only he knows, and of course, he knows best. But when recalling all of these terrible things in our past, we can't help but ask ourselves, how are we supposed to react to adversity? That is something over which we have control. I once got some advice on that issue that, without exaggeration, changed my life, or at least my perspective on life. Every person in the course of a lifetime is going to face trials, travails, tribulations, and whether those difficulties are punishments or challenges, they hurt. So how do we react? Imagine, if you will, hypothetically, a father who decides that he has to punish a teenager who has done something wrong. The teenager has a cell phone and it's on the father's plan. So the father calls the cell phone provider and asks for texting to be cut off on that plan, but doesn't tell the teenager. Now that's like taking water away from a fish. Count to 60 and that kid will be in the father's room saying, "My phone's not working, what's going on?" Father shrugs and says, "I don't know." Now, whatever deterrent effect that the father was trying to achieve isn't going to happen in that instance because the kid doesn't know that he or she is being punished. Instead, the father would have to call in the teenager and say, "Listen, you did something very wrong. I hate to have to do this, but you need to learn a lesson. I'm going to be cutting off texting on your phone for 24 hours. Well, in some sense, it works the same way with us and God. Sometimes, in order to get our attention, God will gently tap us on the shoulder. Now, a person of great spiritual sensitivity will realize that if he or she reaches into their pocket for a quarter to stick in the parking meter, but instead takes out a dime, well, that was a punishment from God. It's going to cost them some extra time now to put their hand back in their pocket. A modest amount of time, a very modest punishment, but they recognize it as such. And they say, "God, let that be a kapara. Let that be an atonement. Let it count against my balance sheet. If I was supposed to be punished, I want that one, regardless of how trivial, to count, so that you don't have to get my attention instead of gently tapping me on the shoulder by perhaps slapping me." But we who are more spiritually numb, we wait until the slap, and then God has our attention, and then we start praying. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. There are so many opportunities, and this is such a wonderful thing to remind ourselves of on Tisha B'Av. How many negatives do you go through in the course of a day or a week or a month that aren't dramatic ones? Put aside the dramatic ones that obviously are meant to be challenges or punishments. I'm talking about the trivial ones. Bad weather on a vacation, a stomach ache, a headache, misplaced car keys, traffic. It's our job to react the right way in the face of mild adversity by recognizing that it came from God and it was meant for us. If we do that, it counts and we can lighten our load. If we don't do that, it's the worst of all worlds. You sat in the traffic. You had the headache. You stayed inside on your vacation because it was raining outside. But you didn't realize that God was tapping you on the shoulder. So the next time, he may have to resort to something more dramatic. Let's not let that happen. Let's make even the mild negatives count in order to lighten our load.